What's up, Shady Sports? I'm back here with a very special guest tonight, Ken Navisky. Ken, how you doing tonight?
Good, man. It's good to be with you. I'm looking forward to it. We should have a good time tonight. But I'm blessed. I feel great.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you coming on. So let's dive right in here. Talk a little bit about your growing up and your high school career.
Well, I grew up in Sarasota, Florida, and primarily played soccer because my cousin pissed me off, and he kept getting all those little trophies, and I was like 9, 10 years old, and I didn't get those trophies. He's like, man, all you got to do is play, and you'll get these trophies. So I was like, oh, okay. I went and tried out, and I was 10 at the time, and all the 10 and under teams were full. So they said, hey, Kenny, if you want, you can try out for a 12 and under team. So I did, and I made it. And within very short succession, by the age of 13, I had become one of the best goalkeepers in the state of Florida. And I was blessed. I had a chance to go to Canada in the summer of 1982 and played in Canada with a very select team from Florida. And the next year we went to West Germany. It wasn't Germany then, it was East and West Germany. And I traveled and played in West Germany. They kind of wanted to keep me over there. At the time, I was 13, and my parents said, no, you're too young. You ain't staying over here. You're not going to stay in the German league and do that stuff. So I didn't. And then in 1984, I had a chance to go play in Mexico for the summer. And then in 85, I got into high school. And when you go into high school in Florida, if you're a good athlete, you play high school football. That's what pays the bills. And I was a very good athlete. I was a very good football player, but I never played organized football. I just was a soccer guy, and I went out there, and I just was playing for Riverview High School in Sarasota, Florida, and we were always ranked in the state. And I moved all over the place. We ran the wishbone, and all my friends were brothers. I grew up down south. That's how I rolled, I played quarterback for a little while when I was a freshman. I played a little defensive back, but the reality is I went from outside linebacker, quarterback, defensive back, safety. I was a very fast kid. I could run a 4.6, 4.40 easily. They called me the fastest white man in Sarasota County because when I ran track, I could run the 100 meters in 11 flat. So I can move. I can move a little bit. But the one thing that was constant was while I was doing all these other positions, I was a very good kicker punter. And my high school football coach, who is a legend in the state of Florida, he's in the Florida Football Hall of Fame, John Sprague, he looked at me and he goes, Navisky, if you want, you can just kick and punt. And I'll get a scholarship to play football in college just for punting and kicking. And anybody who knows anything about football, if you don't have a problem with pressure, that's a great way to get your college paid for. You get all the benefits of being on the football team without having to get the living snot beat out of you. And it just so happened that I was a very good place kicker. I was one of the top 2 or 3 in the state of Florida, and ended up took all 5 of my trips. Was signed my letter of intent to go to Ole Miss. It kind of fell through at the last, and then I ended up at Minnesota State University up here. And when you think about Minnesota State University, when I was there, we were playing North Dakota State, the Bison, South Dakota State, the Jackrabbits, University of South Dakota, the Coyotes, University of North Dakota, the Fighting Sioux, Northern Colorado. I mean, Division II football was in the North Central Conference. I mean, hell, look at what North Dakota State University's done since they've moved up to D1 AA. And the same with, if I'm not mistaken, South Dakota State won the national championship this year. So, there's none of my kitties. It just was one of those things. And my objective was to just go up there and represent and do the best I could. And my freshman year, I was redshirted. And the coaches basically said, we don't want you to leave. Are you okay with being redshirted? And I said, absolutely, because for me, that gave me another year of not only eligibility, but it gave me another year to get an education. And it allowed me to spread those credits out so I didn't have to cram everything in 4 years. And so first year was great. Spring game came around. They brought in some kickers, but they were just regular kids. They weren't quite at the level that I was, and that was okay. And ended up getting the job. And my freshman year, I was all North Central Conference. My sophomore year, I was all North Central Conference. My sophomore year was a great year, but then my junior year, I actually had a little bit of a slump, and I didn't have a very good junior year. But then going into my senior year, I was a USA Today All-American and a CM Frank All-American, and it just was one of those things where my roommate was my holder my senior year. He was the number 3 finisher in the Harlan Hill for the Division II. That's basically the Heisman. Very confident. One of my best friends to this day, Jamie Pass, and he exuded confidence, and I picked up on that and ended up breaking a whole bunch of school records and doing all kinds of things. If you go to the Minnesota State University record book, I'm still in there for scoring and some other stuff, but it's a long time. I'm 52 now. I've been out for a little while. So college was amazing, and getting those accolades was great. And I tried out for like the Arena Football League and some other things, but to be honest with you, I went right into business out of college, and took a year off of football. And then when I went in, I wasn't any money in the Arena Football League. I mean, they put 4 guys in an apartment, and I think we're making like $1,000 a month. Aside from the accolades of playing pro football, there was no money to be made, and I wanted to get busy making money and living, and that's basically what I did. Parlayed that into a sales job with a soccer company called Kelme, and did that for several years. And then it parlayed me into a pharmaceutical sales position, and then it parlayed me into motorsports. So, the journey is never ending. I've done a little bit of everything. I really, truly have.
Definitely. I mean, you talk about your time at Minnesota State University, and you sound like a very well-spoken guy. How important was academics to you throughout your college career?
Well, anytime somebody puts their faith and trust in you and invites you to the university, they were putting a lot of money into me to represent them to play football, and I was not lost on that. And for me, getting an education was a must. If somebody's willing to pay for your education, you've got to get it. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it was the overwhelming thing. And I did what everybody did. I was blessed. I was a head DJ in a really large nightclub. I also played soccer for Minnesota State University. I lived, the life that very few people could live when you're All-American football player, a big DJ in a big nightclub. I was very fortunate. I had a lot of opportunities to have fun and do things and see things, and I lived life to the fullest. But I also made sure I got my education. And the biggest thing where kids go wrong, whether they're young men or young women, they don't go to class. In my college days, my high school coach said, Navisky, get to class. That's it. If you go to class, you're going to be fine. And I knew better. So my first year, I didn't do too well. I really didn't. And I had to work my way through a summer school course to stay eligible for my scholarship. But then after that, I became a model student. I really, truly did. And, the irony is I graduated with like a 3.1 GPA. But had I worked hard the first year, I probably would have been on the honor roll and maybe even been on the dean's list. But I putzed around and I screwed around. So that's my advice for all young people going to college. Number one, these days, I don't think you have to. I think you can get a great education at a trade school or take an apprenticeship as a plumber or an electrician or a welder or whatever. Those are great ways. And you don't get a whole bunch of debt. You come out making money. But if you do go to college and you're spending that money, you better make sure you get your ass to class, because that's how you pay the bills. And if you're in class, you can absolutely do it, because I'm not an incredibly brilliant person, but I paid attention and I could get through it. And if I can do it, anybody can do it. So academics is first and foremost. And if you're going to college to party and have a great time, good for you. Just get up and go to class. Make sure you go to class.
Definitely. So you worked at a nightclub, right? I imagine that was a little difficult, the nightclub culture and then having to be a student the next day. How did you balance that?
Well, everybody that worked in the nightclub, the football players were bouncers. A lot of the bartenders were sorority and fraternity guys and girls. And a lot of the service staff was, just great students. It was like a big family. It was a place called the Albatross. It was in Playboy's top 50 party bars in 1988 or something. It was a legendary place in Mankato. But it's just like anything else. I would work on nights where I knew I could sleep in a little bit the next day, and it all just worked out. I mean, you have to have responsibility in your life, and I did. A million miles away from home, nobody's paying attention to you. Your football, team gives you the itinerary and what you need to do, but they don't hold your hand all day and all night. So you got to make some good decisions. And I think that that's where I learned to just be a man. That you have to figure things out. You have to work the problems and get through it. And that's what I did. You have to have discipline and make sure you get up and don't drink too much, get your sleep, don't do stupid things, and stay out of trouble. And everything works out. It's not hard. I mean, my goodness gracious, I see the stuff that are thrown at kids today and how soft they're getting. And it breaks my heart, because, what do they say? Hard times, or soft people create hard times. Hard people create soft times. And, we're living, I think, unfortunately, in a time when hard people created soft times. And now a lot of people are just getting soft. They get all tangled up in stuff that doesn't mean anything. It's a waste of time and energy, and people get so offended at the dumbest stuff. And life is hard. And if you don't know that, you're going to learn it really fast, because personal responsibility, providing for yourself and your family, and those things don't care about, your feelings. They don't care about your feelings. You need to get up, get your ass in the workforce, take the slings and arrows just like everybody else did, and provide. This soft culture we're developing right now is dangerous. It scares the hell out of me. But my kids, unfortunately, for a lot of those folks out there, they're not soft. They've been brought up and they understand the value of a hard day's work and discipline, and they understand challenges lie ahead and they're going to have to overcome them.
Definitely. I mean, I think technology is a big problem nowadays, but that's a whole nother avenue to get down. So after your college career and after your pharmaceutical stint, you worked for Monster Jam, one of the most unique sports in the world. So talk about the behind the scenes of all that.
Well, Monster Jam called me when I was getting ready to go into a hospital to see a cardiologist for a call. And my phone rang, and it was the city, Aurora, Illinois. And I saw it and I thought, interesting. Because I dabbled and I had friends in the industry and stuff. And I was working for Monster X at the time, the Monster X tour, and Danny Torgerson. And the phone rang, and it was Monster Jam. They said, hey, you popped up on our radar. We'd love to have you come up to the announcer summit at the Metrodome. And I accepted. And that was in 2012. And I got baptized by fire. They put me right out there with Greg Whitaker and Scott Douglas. And there's probably about 18 to 20 hosts. And I learned really quick. 2012, I was the Rookie of the Year. 2013, I was the Rising Star. I was invited to the World Finals to be a pit reporter during the pit party 2012, 2013, 2014, and I believe 2015. And then 2016, they put me on the main stage for the pit party at the Monster Jam World Finals. And I did that all the way up to 2018. And then I was recruited and I went to Hot Wheels Monster Trucks Live as their number one host. But the behind the scenes at Monster Jam, man, let me tell you, it's a big family. and everybody loves everybody for the most part. It really is. I mean, from the office staff to the dirt crew guys to the guys that work the track, you know, the officials, the techs, the pit crew guys, the drivers. I mean, it's one big family. And I was a big stadium host. I want to say 2015, 2000, 2016, 2017, and 2018. I was a big stadium host and appeared on Speed TV a couple times, Fox Sports a little bit. And it's surreal. And I try to explain to people, you know, it's such a unique job and it's such an amazing thing to see because when you're there, the kids just love this stuff. And for me, I'm a mainstream motorsports kind of guy. And I you know, and I'm not like a big NASCAR fan, but I respect NASCAR. I respect the sport. I respect the flow of it. And when I first started with Monster Jam, we were on Speed TV. And I think the only concept truck that we had at the time was Bulldozer and El Toro Loco. They were the two bolts. All the other trucks were trucks. Some people might go, oh, yeah, but, you know, Monster Mutt was a concept truck. Well, yeah, Monster Mutt was a concept truck, but it was still a chop top Merc, 53 Merc. It was a Mercury with big ears on it and a tail, but it was still a car. You know, a truck. Max D is a Camaro. You know, about 2.5 years in, Feld Entertainment started taking more and more interest in Feld Motorsports. And they started exercising more of their input. They moved the corporate office from Aurora to Ellington, Florida. And then things got a little bit, I say, goofy. And I'm not saying it because I didn't love the people. The people were amazing. Feld folks are great. I love every one of them. I don't have a bad thing to say about any of them. But they took monster trucks from what I considered mainstream motorsports. And they really took it over and started focusing on mainstream motorsports entertainment. So it went from mainstream motorsports to motorsports entertainment. And they took and made a zombie truck. And they took and made a devil truck. And they made a shark truck. And they started making all these goofy things that weren't trucks. They were characters. And I kind of started losing a little enthusiasm for it because I just thought it was cheapening the sport. You know, for me, as a grown man, Blue Thunder, the Ford, was awesome to me because if I'm a Ford guy, I'm going to buy a Blue Thunder t-shirt because, man, I drive a Ford. I'm a Ford guy that's built Ford. That's Blue Thunder. And the kids would love Blue Thunder because it's a Monster Jam truck. It's a monster truck. What's not to love? I didn't think they needed to go so crazy with all of these ridiculous trucks. So when Hot Wheels came along in 2018 and started courting me, I was flattered and I was ready for a change. And like I said, I don't have anything bad to say about Monster Jam. I love Monster Jam. Those people are my family. Matter of fact, last weekend I went to practice at the US Bank Stadium and got to hang out with Kay Young and see so many people that I genuinely consider family. Adam Anderson, Todd LeDuc, you know, Michael Christensen. These are my family. These are my friends. And but it was time for a new chapter, and that's kind of how I hopped over into Hot Wheels. But man, Monster Jam was an amazing thing, and being invited to the World Finals every year was an honor. And you know, there were so many things I just thought were ridiculous. I mean, Scott Douglas to me is the voice of Monster Jam, and to have a talent like that pulled off of the air, maybe because he's not 25 anymore and maybe he doesn't look the way he looked 20 years ago, and put in a position where he wasn't on the air and his voice wasn't really being used. It would be like taking Lee Corso off of College Game Day. You know, it was premature. I to this day, when you hear Scott Douglas's voice, that's Monster Jam. And I just think that it was a waste of amazing talent. And you can tell because from the moment they took Scott Douglas off the air, that the product, at least on TV, was not the same, not even remotely the same. And when they got rid of the crew from Fox Sports and took it in-house, it changed things as well. And, it kind of changed things up a little bit. So it was a perfect time to leave in my book, I thought.
Definitely. So after Monster Jam, I assume a lot of things you learned in that industry, you carried on. For last year, you ran for state senate. So talk about that experience and how that changed your life ultimately.
Well, I had run for office 2005. I ran for city council. Then I was appointed to the Rochester Zoning and Planning Commission. So I served the city for 6 years. And that ended in, where's that plaque at? 2012. That ended in 2012. And I kind of just stepped back for a while and watched things happen. And then about February of last year, our congressman had died. He died of cancer, of kidney cancer. His name was Jim Hagedorn, and he was a very good man. And I wouldn't say we were friends, but we would message, and he always would respond to me. And he was a gentleman. I genuinely liked him. So when the congressional seat here in District 1 opened up, I had approached my wife and kids and said, I'm thinking of running in this special election in the congressional race for the United States Congress. And they all said, okay, let's go for it. Well, I got in. I was the second person in. And within a month, there was 9 people. 9 people. And while we were traveling and doing debates and roundtables, I was doing exceptionally well, but I was nobody. Nobody knew me. They were learning about me. And I propelled my way up in the field to probably the number 4 or 5 position behind Jeremy Munson, who was a current state rep, Brad Finstead, who was a representative that the GOP really wanted. You could tell that's where all the money was going, and that's where all the stuff was going, to Brad Finstead. And then Jennifer Carnahan was in there, the wife of the late Congressman Jennifer Carnahan, was Jim Hagedorn's wife. And then there was another gentleman named Matt Benda, great man, lawyer, and then myself, and then four or 5 other people. And we separated into 2 groups, the top tier group and a lower tier group. And we just battled it out. And while this was happening, my state Senate map in Rochester got redistricted, and my state senator, the state level, David Senjum, he's 80, and he goes, I'm too old to knock on all these new doors. He retired. And so he called me and goes, hey, Kenny, you're not going to win the congressional race. And I knew that, but I was in there to stir up trouble. I was just trying to Donald Trump it is what I was doing. I was saying what I thought was ridiculous. I was speaking from the heart, and I had an amazing message, and it was resonating, but I knew I wasn't going to win the congressional race. I knew that. My volunteers, I thought, knew it. So basically what I did was I called a meeting with my 10 or 11 close volunteers. And I said, what do you guys think about suspending the congressional run and focusing on the state Senate run? And they unanimously said yes, because we felt it was something that was much more a possibility, even though it's an incredibly Democratic area. You know, the whole state of Minnesota is red, except Olmsted County here in Rochester and the Twin Cities and a little sliver of the Iron Range in northern Minnesota. but those are where all the people live. But we figured that we could put together a good message. My website is still up. It's Navisky.us. You can see it. I still got my Ken Navisky for State Senate Facebook page up. I still communicate with followers all the time, but we came up short. She got 19,700 some votes, and I got 15,000 some odd votes. I got 40%. She got 48%, and somebody got a pot party candidate, cannabis party legalization guy got 2, or something like that. But anyway, it was interesting. It was very humbling, and it goes to show you, you can do incredibly well in your debates. You can do incredibly well in your roundtable discussions. And these days, unless people are hurting, they're not going to vote for somebody outside of their party. And that's a shame, because my whole campaign was the elderly being overtaxed, overburdened. Inflation's killing them. It was crime. We're too soft on crime. Our streets aren't safe anymore, and we live in a very affluent community. So it was crime. It was a common sense energy policy, so people could afford their heating oil and the gas in their cars. I mean, my platform was geared towards common sense, make common sense common again. And that was it. And my opponent was all, women's health care and reproductive rights. And she ran on that hard, even though there was nothing anybody in the state of Minnesota could do to overturn, our liberal policies towards abortion. But they ran on that really hard because of the Roe v. Wade thing that had happened, where they reversed it and put it back to the states. And she was for free health care for everybody, which I know is impossible. There's no such thing as free anything. Somebody always pays for it. And, she wanted to defund the police. So for me, it was a no-brainer. And the difference is here in Rochester, Minnesota, we have the Mayo Clinic, and the average household income per individual is like $92,000. So it's a very affluent, high-tech, medical-based community where they make a lot of money, and they're just not feeling it like a town that's 10 miles away. We live in a bubble. Granted, their cost of living's gone up too, but if you're working at the clinic and you're bringing home $280,000, $300,000 a year between your family, you're still going on vacation. Your kids are still playing sports. You're still, able to pay for your cabin up in northern Minnesota, but you don't like it, but it's not really changing your life. It's an inconvenience. Whereas if you're an elderly person living off of a little pension and Social Security, and you see your expendable income shrinking every month because of inflation and the cost of fuel and the cost of energy, it's very scary. And that's why I ran. I ran for people that didn't have a voice and were losing their very way of life. And there just aren't enough people hurting in this community. But unfortunately, I can say without question, there are big numbers of people that are hurting a great deal. It's just not enough to swing the vote. And that's the reality of the situation. It just is what it is.
Definitely. So one thing that really stood out to me is your community making $92,000 a year, which is close to 6 figures. So after your run for state senate, what are you doing now? Like what business are you involved in?
I'm a sales executive with a company called All Star Basements, and my friend owns the company. It's an amazing company. They basically hired me right at the beginning of COVID when all the motorsport stuff stopped. And I've been doing that, and I still am in monster trucks. I work this weekend. I'm going to be in Mississippi, I believe, Alabama. This weekend, I'm on the road because I'm working for a company called 2 Extreme Monster Trucks Live, and it's Bounty Hunter, Scarlet Bandit, a brand new truck that's called Brutal, Hot Tamale, Jekyll and Hyde, and Iron Outlaw. So they don't run in Monster Jam anymore. They've created their own company called Two Extreme Monster Trucks Live, and I still travel a great deal with them, and still do my thing. I still see great monster truck fans every weekend, and get to hang out, take pictures, and still live in that family. Jimmy Cretin and Don Cretin, they're amazing. They've got a great company. I'm very blessed to work for them. And the most important thing is my son plays college football at Morningside University. And before I signed with Two Extreme Monster Trucks Live, I told him I needed to have the falls off. And that's the way it works. I'll work first quarter, second quarter, but when fall rolls,
It looks like we lost him for a sec. Hold on.
when fall rolls around, I need to be able to go and travel, watch my son, and that. That's what we do now.
Definitely. So obviously, through all those experiences, your son playing, you running for state senate, how do you balance all your responsibilities? I know, like, if you love something, it must be easier, but it still must be difficult as a parent and as a full-time employer.
Well, it's like anything else. It's like discipline. You have to make time and get things done. I've got a beautiful daughter. She goes to college. I've got a son. He goes to college. Kelly and I live, alone now. She's a general manager of a brand new big restaurant called The Well. You just have to figure it all out. You have to make time, and you have to prioritize, and you have to provide. And I don't know how much longer I'll be in the monster truck industry. I don't know what tomorrow holds. That's the thing about life that you just don't ever know, is what tomorrow holds. But the reality is we will continue to press forward and do whatever we can, and just keep living life. I mean, I've been so blessed. I've been all over the world. I've seen so many things, and I've met so many amazing people. I'll never stand before my creator and say the words "I wish." I've had an amazing ride, and hopefully here in the next 3 years or so, Kelly and I will move out west to Wyoming or Montana, and that's probably why I won't run again, more than likely, because we do want to move out west. I want to see the mountains and live out west. So, and to be honest with you, the things that the new electorate is pushing through in Minnesota, we're becoming a really, really California style state with taxes and laws, and I'm not a Marxist. I'm not a socialist, and I just don't like where the state is going politically.
So I really appreciate you coming on tonight. As we end here, do you have any advice for younger kids who hope to maybe spread their wings and not just stay in one field and try all different things? And also, how do you keep pushing through adversity?
Well, life is adversity. I want everyone to know that you're going to have days where you just don't know if you can get up and go do it. But the amazing thing is if you do get up and you put yourself through it, the day after might be the greatest day you've ever had in your life. And you have to push through the hard times to have an opportunity to really revel in the good times. And, life is the hardest fight you'll ever fight, but there are so many amazing up times that when you feel like you're at your lowest point, you shouldn't give up, because your whole life can change in a matter of an hour, a day, a week, and it can change for the better. And it's really tough to see that when you're down on your luck, but you just have to keep stepping and stepping and stepping, and doors open. Be willing, be fearless, be aggressive, be thankful for the moments that you have that are good. Don't take them for granted, and just realize, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me. That's a great thing to remember. Don't get offended and sidetracked by the noise and the nonsense, and get your face out of your phone. The good Lord created the sky, mountains, oceans, lakes, forests, beautiful people, amazing animals. Get your phone out of your face and admire all that's around you. Don't live your life on a 7-inch by 4-inch screen, because you're going to have to stand before your creator someday, and they're going to look at you and go, do you realize you spent 30% of your life looking at a phone? Think about that. 40% of your life looking at a phone. That's not living. That's just getting by. So don't take yourself too serious. Be willing to put yourself out there. Learn from your mistakes. Be a good person. Be humble. Be thankful. And, man, just keep on pressing, because, like I said, you don't know what tomorrow holds, but you got to get your ass there to find out what it holds. And that's what I'd say to young people. Don't get caught up in all the noise. You do you, and have fun, love your life, and be thankful. And, man, I'll tell you what, you'd be surprised where you end up and what you accomplish.
Definitely, Ken. I mean, you're a great guy, man. I'm going to be following along with your story and journey. Where can people find you on social media?
It's at Ken Navisky, Ken, and my last name is Navitsky. And like I said, it's Navisky.us is my Senate page. It's still up. You can learn a lot about me, where I come from, and what I believe in. And the same on Instagram, at Ken Navisky. Twitter, I don't do a whole lot on Twitter, but it's at Ken Navisky. Truth Social, at Ken Navisky. But, if you have questions about the industry of monster trucks, or you just need somebody to talk to, maybe some words of encouragement, I always tell folks, man, I'm always here. Just reach out and tap me and let me know what's going on, and I'll get back to you as soon as I can, I promise. I'm nobody special, but I've just done an awful lot of my life, and I have no problem coaching people through some of the tough times, because they're out there, and it's real easy to get lost in that shuffle. But like I said, get through it, be bigger, be better, and figure out where you want to be, and then go get it. And that's the only way you can do it. And I'll tell you this, if you're young and you're willing to get up, put in a hard day's work, you're going to do all right, because there's a lot of people around today that are sitting around not willing to work, and you'll blow right by them. And when people see the value, you'll get paid money, and you'll be worth every penny. They'll be willing to keep you, because that's one of the challenges today, is finding people that are willing to work.
Definitely. So I have a lot of respect for you, and I'll definitely be following along with you. And thank you for coming on. You're welcome to come on anytime, and we'll be following you and following your journey, because I know you're going to do great things in this world. So,
well, listen, brother, God bless you. I appreciate getting hooked up with you. We got a Facebook common friend, and that's awesome. And listen, love.
This is Brett, and you're watching Shady Sports Network. Tune in, hit that like button.
You might wonder, what do these guys do? Player signing announcements. I never in a million years thought you would actually come on to break this news. So without further ado, go ahead and tell everybody what happened today.
Yeah, man. I just had a workout with the Cincinnati Bengals. Signing me right out.
Without further ado, I'd like to announce that, I'll be taking my talents to Salina Liberty.
This just in. The Major League of Football is reportedly collapsing, unable to pay hotel room bills, with players being kicked out of their rooms and hotel managers asking them to leave voluntarily without issue.
And then we got Lions wide receiver Williams is debuting this week as a starter. That's something to look at as far as the eye test goes. And then another one on the eye test is Mostert might be coming back to Miami. And we can see if he has a role in this offense and see if he can be viable for the next couple weeks coming and help us in the playoffs and possibly towards a championship. That would be very nice, because he's sitting on my bench right now.